Okay. Welcome to the module 2 of the visioning experience, which is clarity. And hey, Elizabeth, good to see you. Yeah, and so I started this a couple of years ago at the end of the year as a way for in the beginning of the new year for people to really go further than a vision board, even to really have an idea and spend some intentional time and brain space thinking about what do I want my creative the next chapter of my creative journey to look like. And this is the latest iteration of that. And I think I've tried it in several different ways. And I was trying to think of like, what's a way that I could really like say thank you to the people that are working with me, the people that have worked with me. And I thought to work through this together, because I had talked to a friend who is wanting to make some changes in her life. And I just said, well, have you spent any time thinking about it? Like what you want, what you'd like to do, what you'd like to change and have different. And she's like, no, I haven't, because I don't, when do I have the time to do that? And then even if I did have the time to do it, like, I'm not sure what I would even ask myself. I'm not sure. So I thought, okay, the two prong bonus of this, well, there's really three, right? Is having somebody else, me, share some things with you to think about that I know are going to set you up to in this kind of pathway to get clearer and clearer on what your creative vision is for the next 6 months to a year. That's one part of it. And then the other part is like having the time to do it. So having time on your calendar where it's like it's different than like here's a PDF, go do it on your own, which sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. So it's even having this dedicated time and space to do it together on the calendar is helpful. And then the together part of it, right? Hearing what other people are doing, what their ideas are, what their struggles are, seeing that you're not alone, getting ideas from other people. So that was kind of the trifecta for me to say, okay, I'm going to offer this as a bonus then, and we're going to do it over together over the span of 3 days. And I mean, Twyla could tell me, or whoever has watched it. Elizabeth, did you get to watch the replay of the first one? Yeah.
I
Okay.
did.
Cool. Okay. Okay. See the thumbs up on my screen. I did not do that. What is going on? I've got a ghost in my machine and it likes to give me thumbs up. So it's friendly.
You're
Um,
just that cool.
I need the encouragement. I'm not sure what's happening. But anyway, so yeah, we'll build on this. So having those three things together, I just thought would be really helpful. And so I invited everybody, the general public to come to the first one. And then I wanted to save these last two just for y'all and for people who are going, either working one-on-one or in the cohort, or we have worked together in the past. You have a better understanding of a lot of the tools and that kind of thing. So how we're going to start this is let's see, if you don't have if you don't have it printed out, that's fine. I'm still just like the last module. I'm just going to be walking you through things, but I did want everybody to have the chance to see each other. I am going to bring us back and forth. So I'll try not to be clunky with that as I go from sharing my screen to when we're all together like this. Again, if you can stay muted, and if you have a question, you can pop it into the chat until we are actually having some conversation. And we're here, we know the date, or we know this is module 2. And then the second thing, that I always begin with, if you've been in any of my classes before or worked with me at all, is permission. So, congratulations, truly. I mean, you gave yourself permission to be here. There's people that signed up that aren't here or couldn't be here for some reason. There are people that I'm sure wanted to and thought that it sounded like a lovely idea and then didn't give themselves permission to follow through with it. So it's actually really a big deal and important to give yourself credit for the fact that not only did you give yourself permission to sign up for it, you gave, whether you're watching the replay or you're here live with me now, you gave yourself permission to prioritize this. And that's what part of this work is. You're prioritizing your creative dream and showing up for it on a consistent basis versus just dreaming about it all the time. So you can also help yourself, again, whether you're here with me in person or on the replay, to give yourself permission to just kind of say, okay, for the next hour and a half or so, I'm going to give myself permission to focus on this and not try to multitask or do other things while you're giving yourself the time and the headspace to really get into these questions, think about them, and answer some questions, because that's what comes with clarity, or that's where clarity comes from. So we talk about this a lot, that when there's a feeling of indecision or spinniness or overwhelm or confusion, many times that's with each decision that we make, with each choice that we make, with each question that we answer, it's like an onion peeling away. It just gets clearer and clearer, and we get more certain about what it is we want to do. And so that's what this process is. Woo, I'm stuck. Am I back? I'm back. Okay. So the first, the permission slip that was in your handout, you can read, but but I will read it aloud, I forgot about that part, just to bring us kind of all into this space with this intention to be fully present. So I hereby give myself permission to believe that I'm right where I need to be. I hereby give myself permission to go at my own pace. Meaning, if I come back and say, hey, are we finished, and you're not quite finished yet, or you want to go back, don't feel like there's not a right or wrong way to do this, right? Do feel like you can go at your own pace. Or if you finish up before the rest of us do, go back to the last question and look at it. I hereby give myself permission to practice making decisions from my brave heart versus my fear reflex, which we're going to be talking about in a little bit here. I hereby give myself permission to not compare myself to others or their creative dreams. That's huge, especially in a group like this of people who are talented and smart and doing their own thing in the world. And some things are kind of similar and some things aren't, but you are each 100% unique, as are your creative journeys. So it's never helpful to compare. And I hereby give myself permission to trust my intuition as I make these decisions to clarify my creative vision. That's another piece of this. Is not only, and I think the more we trust our intuition and the more we trust our wise inner knowing, the easier it becomes to make decisions. The more often we're willing and feel brave enough to make decisions. I think when we doubt and when we have those doubts, it's because we're not trusting that voice inside of us. And then P.S. if I feel resistance towards any of these statements, it's totally normal. I'll practice being gentle with myself and just giving myself 5% more permission at a time. So the first thing that we, or the thing that we did basically last week when we were working through the re-envision with the curiosity, was came up with a lot of possibilities by exploring, how do I want to feel? What do I want to be, have, create, experience those, and through those lenses, and just kind of cast a wide net, and did that without the pressure of, hopefully, was the idea of needing to know how, or needing to figure it out. Like, how am I going to make this happen? Because when we thwart our dreams before they can even get to the next phase, a lot of times, because we're like in the dreaming phase, and our unconscious, or our thoughts are coming in to let us know all the reasons that won't work. And so this was an opportunity, hopefully, to do some of that thinking and dreaming without that kind of a barrier right off the bat. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more on today's call. But the first thing I want to give you the chance to do then is, whether you are working on the printed handout itself, or you brought a journal, either is fine, to just take a couple of minutes. I'm going to put a couple of minutes on the timer, and on the possibility sheet, or right on the top of your journal, possibilities, write in list form what you came up with for the possibilities when you were playing with all the possibilities and following your curiosity last week. And so we can start there. We're going to be winnowing in and narrowing the focus. But for now, I'm going to put a couple of minutes on the clock and turn on this cool, funky music. And I'm going to have this up here to remind you. And again, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat. Okay. Thank you, Gail, for letting me know that I had not pressed the button to share that music. That was very popular part last week. People were like, what is that music? It is, to me, it does help me kind of more get in. I was over here just like enjoying it. So I'm glad that you let me know that I could share it with you. Okay. So everybody had the time to kind of put a concentrated list together of the possibilities from that you came up with last week. For some of you, you will have heard me talk about this before, but again, I think it's always good to have the reminder. And if you're learning this or hearing about this for the first time, the concept of making decisions or approaching your creative visions and dreams through the lens of your brave heart or your fear reflex is just, it brings a lot of awareness and intentionality to what you're doing. And I know that when I first introduced the concept to people, most people, or a lot of people, I would say, maybe not most people, but anyway, people are surprised at how often they are making decisions in life fully from the fear reflex versus what I call the brave heart. So the fear reflex, as I see it, it's basically fueled by what you've been thinking the longest. It's fueled by the experiences, most of the experiences that you've had in your life. And it's just thoughts that you've been thinking the longest. They're the most familiar to you, even if they're not serving you. And they served you at some point in some way, but they're probably not anymore. And the brave heart is more intentional, and or when you use it with more intention, I think you get to show up in the world and do the things that you're wanting to do in a more empowered way. So as your handout says, the fear reflex will cause you to feel worried and scared about things, to doubt your worthiness or the worthiness of your creative vision, to second guess your intuition, like we were talking about intuition at the beginning of the call, to stay closed off to new ways of thinking or acting, to stick with the things that you're doing, even if they're not serving you, just because it's what you've always done, to make decisions based on what other people think, or even what you think other people will think. Sometimes it's like we don't even know for sure, but we're like, they're probably going to hate this, or they're probably going to think I'm crazy. And so we're mind reading with the fear reflex, which is never helpful. And then you know you won't act in ways that are aligned with your highest good, probably, when you're making decisions from the fear reflex. And this is an important one. I think you won't be willing to take risks and to fail in the name of creating the life that you want for yourself. Because, well, not because, and the interesting thing is, right, that failure is just part of the process. Not everything we do works. And nothing has gone wrong. It just means we're living life. We're living life on the planet where not everything we want, even when we're showing up and doing all the right things, goes exactly the way we want it to. But if we're making decisions from, and if we're intentionally, purposefully looking at life as much as possible through this brave heart that we have, the brave heart encourages you to give yourself permission to believe in your worthiness and the worthiness of your creative vision. And I would say, even before you have proof, to trust your intuition, to follow that wise inner voice or knowing, to be open to new ways of thinking and feeling and acting, to attempt things without the proof that they will work out or turn out exactly the way that you want them to. So again, exploration, curiosity, being open, to follow your curiosity. And this is a hard one for a lot of us, to make decisions that feel right to you, even if other people don't agree or understand or approve. That's one, I think, for a lot of us that will keep us right where we are. And then to create and maintain healthy boundaries, because a lot of time when we're doing this work and we're wanting time, saying yes to ourselves entails saying no to other people. Yeah. Yeah, it's challenging, and though it's possible, right? It's like we know too that when we do it, how the difference. I think even having the conversation about this and seeing the two ways that we can show up to life is enlightening and is a step beyond what a lot of people are able to do or have access to in life, because you just get up and you do it and you think this is hard over and over again with no tool or no support, right, to get past that, to just show up. um to act in alignment with what you know to be your highest good. So again, that kind of ties with boundaries, saying no to other things and saying yes to yourself. And again, having the courage to take risks and fail in the name of creating the life that you want. I think a lot of times we want to create the life we want, and we think if we're showing up all the time and if we're working diligently and we're putting time and effort to it, that it should, there's a little bit of entitlement, like, oh, well, it should be working, like this should be happening already. I mean, for all of us, that happens at some time or another, or it worked once and now why is it not working the same exact way again? I think the people who honestly have the most joy and the most success are more likely to be like, yeah, some things are just not going to work, and some things I'm going to have to do more than once, but it's important to me. I'd rather do that. I'd rather fail and keep doing what I want to be doing and what I'm feeling passionate about, and hopefully loving the things that I'm doing, than looking for somebody else to tell me their way to do it, or take the other road that somebody else is like, this is proven, you won't get hurt on this road, which is not true anyway, because that's not possible. And then feeling joyful, just like what decisions make you feel joyful, really tuning in all of these, the fear reflex and the brave heart. The more you can tune into your body and ask yourself, how do I feel? Like, does a decision or make you feel like this or like this? Does it, really in your body, does it make you feel open and possible, like impossibility and joyful, or does it make you feel closed off and tense and kind of like, I don't know, I gotta find my way through it? So these are all just things to be thinking about. Again, as we go through this next phase, which I'm going to ask you to just look at your possibilities. And I'd be curious if you guys wouldn't mind putting in the chat how many possibilities you are on your list. Because again, there's not a right or wrong. Like, you could have 3 or you could have 13. It doesn't matter. I'm just curious to see what y'all are working with here. 10, 11, 13, 13, 6. Okay. Yeah, and some of them could be general. I mean, I'm sure with those things there could be underneath things as well. 4. Okay. So again, there's not a right or wrong, but the reason why I have 2 sheets or you have 2 sheets in your handout that have the possibility, the fear reflex and the brave hearts, because like, I don't know how many, people had. So I would, for these purposes, then you can always, use another sheet or go on to, if you're doing it in your journal, 9. Okay. But I wanted for the people that were using the printed handout to jot real quickly one of your possibilities in that first square, and then take a minute to write like at least one fear reflex thought that you have about it. And you might think like, why would I purposely go digging for those if I don't have one? I mean, if it's not easy, if it's not coming up easily for you, you still might want to just look at, yeah, but if I was making it from the fear reflex, just to see, because a lot of times they're there, and it's better to see it in this way intentionally, choosing to look for it, than to have them pop up and then stop us. So I am going to turn the music back on and put some time on the clock for y'all to do that. Does everybody understand what we're doing right now? Taking a possibility and writing it in the possibility square, and then in the fear reflex square, just writing a thought. I'd start with 1 for each possibility and then go back, or, whatever feels right to you. I mean, in the square, just to at least, what comes up quickly for you. And you might find that you have some of the same fear reflexes for some of the possibilities, you know what I mean? And then you could just write same underneath it. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Okay, I'm gonna wrap that up. You can always go back and add to it if you need to, but thank you, Gail, for telling me that. Now I know I have to push both buttons to make them both the slide and the music happen. So, and I'm actually gonna stop sharing for a minute and just see if anybody would be willing to share at least, one of your possibilities and one of your fear reflexes that came up. Yeah, Vonda.
Sorry about that. Took me a second to get my cursor to come up. Okay, so one of my things is I want to get a studio that is shared with other people. Not just because I want to share the financial aspect of it, but I want to have like create people to interact and bounce ideas off of and be together.
Yeah.
And my fear reflex is I'm afraid of opening myself up to other people because I'm afraid of betrayal and you know, people hurting myself for each other, you know. But then my brave heart says that people can be trusted.
Hold on just a second. Did
Okay,
everybody go to Braveheart, or did you just do fear reflex?
Oh,
yeah.
just fear.
We just started with the fear reflex. Yeah. So that's okay. No, that's not a problem. I just don't want anybody to think that they had done something wrong. So yeah. Okay. But we'll go back to that then next time, because I want to know. Yeah. Anybody else be willing to share one of yours? Yeah, Gail.
Yeah, it's to create new work, new work, and fear kicks right in. It's right there. It's too hard. It's too overwhelming, and I don't have the skills. Basically, I can't do it.
Right. Okay. So this is good to uncover, right? Like, I mean, we know, I know for some of us, we know that it's at the top, but also just imagine it really is like trying to, you know, run a marathon or something, and people are just like tripping you, or, you know, just you're trying to do something for yourself and it's just like, or throwing cold water at you. It's just going to be all that more challenging if we don't examine these thoughts and really just honestly say they're here and how can we work with them, because they're there. I didn't put them in. That's another reason why I liked people to share. It's like, I didn't say, hey, do you guys feel this way? Is this your thought? Like, these are coming from you. So they're in there somewhere. Anybody else be willing to share? Yeah, Jane.
So I really, I'm working on a talk, a 30 to 45 minute talk now. And the fear reflex is I'm not ready. That's my big go-to, is I'm not ready.
Right.
And that you don't have enough stories, and you don't have enough stories to share with people to make it interesting and fun and entertaining. And I literally for the last 2 weeks have just been walking around going, see, you know, and then I'll start talking to somebody and I'll start telling a story, and I'll be like, oh my God, I'll have to stop in the middle of it and write it down or go in the bathroom and say it. I have this weird block, you know, that's telling me I don't have any stories. I don't know any stories. Like, my stories aren't good enough to share and connect with people.
Yeah.
It's very tiring.
Yeah. And so that's how deep that one is, just because like not everybody knows, but I know how many talks you have given and how many stories and how many
okay,
stories
that's the other part
you have, you know. So again, and this is all to share. It's like, see, I mean, we share this. It's not, no judgment, right? But it is possible, and you've been there too, right? To spend more time in another mindset than that one, but that one's there. So we've got to acknowledge it, and we've got to work with it so it doesn't hold you back. Anybody else be willing to share one? Yeah, Judy.
It's kind of like what Jane said. Just basically, I want to feel good about what I produce. And I tend to be just overly critical. And I focus on well, I didn't get this right. Well, I didn't get that right. Well, I need to fix this. Well, I need to fix that. And that just kind of sucks all the joy out of doing it.
Right. Absolutely. And so my number one goal in working with all of you is to not only help you do the things that you want to do in your personal and professional creative life, but to do it with as much ease and joy and meaning as possible. Because, you know, we can, like, I could work with a drill sergeant if I wanted to, like, kind of to take a personal trainer kind of analogy, who would, you know, I might, you know, might beat me up and make me do things that I hated doing. And the result might be like I wanted for a minute, but I don't want to live that way. I don't want to do that to myself 5 times a week. It's not worth it to me. So this is the same thing here. It's like we do want to create the results that we want. We do want to be, make our creative dreams come true. And we want to do it in a way where we're actually enjoying the process. And we wake up in the morning, most mornings we're human, so it's not going to be all the time, but like energized and feeling excited about what we have waiting for us. Twyla, I saw that you were going to share something.
Yeah, thinking about picking photography back up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've forgotten so much.
Mm-hmm.
The printer doesn't work, and my camera batteries run down. Okay, this is the fear reflex, right? This is not the brave heart.
Right. Yeah, the fear reflex. Yeah.
So it feels enormous. Like,
so the fear reflex also feels like that daunting. Like if you feel daunted by something, it's fear reflex.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Because, and then the other thing about, like with Jane or Judy was sharing, or anybody on the call that has had fear reflex thoughts for a long time, it's just like they're the loudest. They're the one that we're used to. They're the ones that we BS ourselves, that like, oh, this is the truth. They feel like facts.
Yeah.
Like, this is just the truth. Like, it's been a long time. I don't remember anything. Like, my printer doesn't even work, that could be true, but like that's insurmountable. I could not fix the printer or get a new printer. Again, I'm not, I just talked about this on the cohort call, the other cohort call this afternoon, which is when we start to do that, here's another thing. We get into the fear reflex willy-nilly, or like without realizing that that's what it is, and that we have some tools we could work with to back out of that and to change our mindset. It becomes the rubber band ball. So each one of those thoughts on its own as a rubber band is no big deal. We can, like, oh, the printer, well, I can handle that. Or even like, oh, like it's been a long time. Okay, it has been a long time, but what can I do to get back to it, right? But when we pile those things on top of each other, and we go from having 2 or 3 or however many thoughts as the rubber bands, and then we have 1,000 of them, and they're in this big rubber band ball that's a mass that's heavy and hard to get to, and we don't know where one starts and the other ends. That's when we're like, never mind. What am I going to do with that? So like, this is another opportunity to look at things one at a time. Like, I can deal with this one at a time.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm right there, I do this work with y'all. I'm not up here on high, not having to do any of this. This is for sure like the work, but it works, right? I mean, I hope if anything, I always want to be an example of how the work works. And that's why I'm such a big believer in it. And that's why I want to share it with other people. So, yeah, I have an I don't know how on my list, and I have a you didn't do it in 2022. And that's true to some extent, but actually, as I'm looking at the other things, I can probably call BS on that too somewhere. So anyway, and that one surprised me and made me laugh, and also like, okay, but that's there. And so I've got to look at it. It's helpful for me to look at it head on. So now, of course, yes, we are going to do what Vonda already did, which is to go to the brave heart. And you did too. That's fine. So go back and look and see if you have more. You'll just have some more time. Do I have any more fear reflex thoughts that I can uncover? Do I have more brave heart thoughts? Vonda's like, yes, I do. It's just like, no lack there of, okay. All right. So I'm going to put the music back on now that I know how to do it, and the timer back on at the same time. I'm learning, it's iteration, and we're going to spend some time looking at the possibilities through our brave heart. And if you need a reminder about what the brave heart is, that'll be up on the screen as well. Any questions? We good? Okay. that give everybody enough time to explore, at least feel like you had a good amount of Braveheart thoughts?
Yeah, I went shopping for a new camera online.
Please, there you go. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
One problem solved, one down.
Sell this Sony mirrorless thing and go back to Canon. Just forget about it.
Again, okay, so that's what I was talking about at the beginning, right? Like making a decision. Like, even the decision to like, oh, I'm just going to buy a new camera. And then like, I'm going to make it a Canon because I know I like Canons. Like each decision you make, your brain's going, thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, you know, I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming that. What did you tell me? How did it feel to? And what was a Braveheart thought that you know around that?
It was start with fresh eyes,
Mm.
and just do it and see what's there and why not. You know, if you want to take some trips and you want to have a camera, you want to go to England and see your niece, you want to travel with your husband, but get a camera that you like, love, and get after it. Just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like why not actually, but I mean, we'll go into why for, but sometimes it is like, why not? And then like, why not? We know the why not, all the fear reflex thoughts back over here in the other box. That's the other thing I like about this new format is like we're putting in a box. And I think like, yeah, we could just cut those out and fold them up and put them someplace else if we wanted to, like physically. Or cover them up with a sticky note. Anybody else be willing to share a Braveheart thought that came? Yeah, Carol.
Unmuted. All right. I didn't share my fear reflex. Well, my possibility is just dedicated space for my art and my projects.
Mm-hmm.
And my Braveheart in response to my husband and I won't agree on certain things.
Is that and that was the fear? Is that the fear reflex?
That was the fear.
Okay.
And my Braveheart says, well, you know, intentional communication does work. I can make it work. And it's just, you know, you get in a habit of why try, or it's going to be too uncomfortable. So,
right.
Yeah.
I love that. And I was like, the question that popped into my mind was, do you agree on every single thing in the world?
No.
No. So it's like not a problem, right? It's like that would be weird if you were the exact same people that felt the same way about everything, you know? Yeah. And interestingly too, I want to share this with you because somebody that was getting coached in the cohort today was talking about asking her husband to help with something that she didn't normally, and she had really grounded herself in her why of what she was going to do it and ask for this help. And she like, it made all the sense in the world to her. So it wasn't like will you help me? It was like, you can do this and I'm going to do, you know, if you want that to be done, you can do that. And she said there was a little bit of a grumble and pushback at first with that normally might have been like, well, I'll just do it myself. And she was like, no, you're just go ahead. And he got over it and he did it. She said he did a beautiful job. I was like, very good.
Yeah.
So sometimes, you know, I think even your awareness ahead of time, like sometimes it can be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But it's worth it.
Right. Yeah. And we've been talking about, you know, making the decision and it goes along with that. Yeah. I spend too much time not making a decision and then not achieving what I want to achieve.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else want to share a Braveheart? Yeah, Jane.
So can I tell you the fear first?
Yeah.
Because it was,
absolutely.
that sounds hard to me.
Right.
Okay. Which I think of fear normally as like, you know, a more of a scared thing, but this is like that sounds really hard. Like it's a fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I was like, but it's fun.
Okay, that's interesting. So neutral circumstance, it's hard because that was on my list too. It's going to be hard. And then my brave part was like, yeah, and worth it.
Oh, that's good.
It's not gonna, again, nobody said it was going to be super duper easy, but both, right? So for you're actually going to have fun, and probably will be fun for me too. But I mean, I think getting to the but it's going to be worth it. I'd rather deal with what needs the work of it, or the difficulty of it, or the challenge of it, even, I would say.
It's a challenge.
It's
It's
not
really not hard.
I'm not digging ditches,
thing
but it's
this thing on my list is not hard.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what's crazy.
It's great
but
to
that's
go
what
back
came
to
out.
remembering, that I actually have fun. Like, I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, do you have one that you would be willing to share, like kind of all the way through from possibility to fear to Braveheart?
Sure. One of my possibilities was to exhibit my clothesline installation piece somewhere this year. And the fear is that it's going to be hard and take a lot of work to create a winning proposal for it.
Mm-hmm.
And the Braveheart was, I've already gotten positive response, and what you just said, that it will be worth it.
Yeah. And knowing you, I would add to that, I've written proposals before. Oh, and they've worked. I've gotten into, I mean,
I will add that. You're right.
Again, that's why I like spending even not just first blush time with the Braveheart, but really looking for, and what else? Yeah. Very recently.
You
Yeah.
can't have too many Braveheart.
Absolutely. Yes, I absolutely haven't. You can't. Anybody else? One more kind of like all the way across the board to see how that flows. Yeah, Vonda.
Okay, so my fear reflex earlier was getting a shared studio with other people. Then it'll be hard. It'll be hard. But
okay, so it's a theme.
I added it after that. So it will be hard to open myself up to others. I mean, like fear of being, opening myself up to more relationships. But my brave heart is that people really can be trusted, and I know so much more now than I did when the things that I'm worried and scared about happen to me. I have better boundaries. I know more what I want and don't want for myself. And I don't give myself away anymore. So I just have to kind of remind myself that I'm a different person now than I was when all those fears that I still carry with me sometimes were installed. I am a lot different person now. And so I can tell those fears, hey, you know what? That really doesn't affect me anymore.
I like that for a reminder. I'm a different person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a totally different person.
Totally different person.
I mean, I would say, I can relate to that. I'm sure we all can in some way, but it's even looking for that, even if you're not a totally different person, but yeah, for you, that is a good reminder, a good next. So you see, you have then, does everybody kind of have this reminder or this knowledge now, this idea of how we start with our possibility, and for most of us, the default is the fear reflex. It's just the default. It's just what pops up first. It's trying to keep us safe. That's what it's there for. It's really usually not malicious. It's usually just doesn't want us to get our feelings hurt, doesn't want us to fail, or have our heart hurt, or all the things that have somebody do something again to us, that kind of thing. But yeah, we are bringing, it's nice to remember the wisdom we're bringing to this too, what we have learned and what we have been practicing and what we have already changed. And then also that we have this other mindset, the Braveheart mindset, that we can intentionally call in. Again, just like with the fear reflex, I didn't tell any of y'all what to say. I didn't say it first, and you were all able, to come up with something. And the more you think about it, I think the more those thoughts will be available to you. And that's a lot of the work that we do here, right? So you're not going to have to, not do that. Before another tool that I have created, and Elizabeth said, thank you, it's been helpful, and she had to drop off. She's going to be here next week too, is the Clarity Finder. And this is an updated version of this as well, but this is just another way to look at your possibilities. So you would, write your possibilities down on this first, on these lines here. And then just go through and it's yes or no questions for each one of them. Have I been dreaming of doing this for months or years? Will I feel disappointed if I don't even try? Am I willing to fail or face no's and keep going? Because, if you're not, you're not. I mean, that's a thing to look head on. Like if you're really like, you know what, I don't think that'd be worth it for me, then that would be good to know ahead of time. That might help you, choose one thing over another. Do I have everything I need to complete this endeavor? Now, not that that's necessarily doesn't need to be a yes to make it happen. It's just interesting to note, right? Like it would be interesting to see if you had like say 6 of these and for 3 of them, you're like, oh, I really have a lot happening. I have a lot of yeses here versus something with a lot of no's. You would just be able to make the choice. Okay, am I willing to put in the time to turn these no's to yeses? Does this project energize me in a meaningful way? And I think what I mean by that, and I had limited space, is like, again, for me, not what other people will think about it, not, but like for me, is it meaningful? Will I say no to other people and plans when I need to in order to practice prioritizing this? Am I willing to dedicate the time, the energy, and the resources that need be to make this happen? Do I have a strong why as to why I want this? I think sometimes this is supposed to be interesting to look at, and this is a time to look at it, is sometimes we've been wanting something, we're thinking we want something for so long, and we don't go back to review it. And maybe if we spend a little intentional time, we don't want to do it anymore, or we don't want to do it in the same way, And will I feel proud of myself for even attempting to do this? Back to that one about do I have a strong why? I gave up the dream several years ago of gardening. For years, I was like, oh, I want a garden. I want a garden. It's so romantic. I love the idea of it. I love seeing other people's gardens. I love seeing people in their gardens and the bounty and the basket and everything. And then finally I was like, Jill, you don't really want it. You just, you appreciate it. And, you love, seeing other people do it. And when I was like, you're right. As I was talking to myself, as I do, Jill, you're right. You don't really. And so I just said, okay, that's a creative dream. That's fine. It's a no for me. I don't have to spend the rest of my life beating myself up for not being a gardener. And will I be proud of myself for even attempting to do this? So I think what I mean by that one too, a little bit deeper, is even if I don't take this dream to its fullest potential, like we're going to talk about, our certain possible and audacious visions for our dream, even if if I don't get all the way to the audacious outcome, is it worth it to try? Am I going to feel more satisfied and more fulfilled and like not questioning or wondering what would have happened what if I'd done this thing? Is it worth it to me to go for it? So I'm going to give you a couple minutes just to do this clarity finder, and then we will come back. Any questions about that? That clear? Okay. Once again, I'm going to I'll need some more time. Still okay. Just let me know. Give me a thumbs up when you're. So we can kind of wrap up if possible. Can always go back if you have some more lines that you need to answer all those questions for. But I'm curious, the people that are, of course, if you have 13, it takes longer than if you have 4. So were there any surprises for anybody? Yeah, I'd have to say me too. You know, so yeah, what was your surprise, Gail?
Well, I realized that all 6 things that I listed, it was really steps to do the one. There's really only one thing. The one thing is to create new work that, you know, that's different than the work I've done before. And the other things were just like supporting steps into that. And then the clarifying questions it just made it really, really clear that being willing to fail is where I'm stuck.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, oh, I'm really pretty clear about all the little different steps I need to do, and you know, class I could do, and you know, some studying I could do, but it's the so everything else I'm like, yeah. Even the ones where I don't have everything I need yet, but I'm like, well, I know how to get it, or at least start in that path.
Right.
Am I willing to fail? And then I'm like, oh, that's too hard.
So that's good to know, right? Like that's, I mean, we can't, and even knowing that, like Vonda said, that's a big aha, is just, I mean, what's the quote? Like, if you're not willing to fail, you're not willing to do anything. Yeah. And so it's just looking at it and it'll be reframing, right? So it'll be reframing around what failure even means, because again, that's a nebulous, kind of like we have nebulous dreams. We can also have nebulous, like what failure, and what does that mean exactly? Success, what does that mean exactly? So we'll get more specific about what those things mean, and that'll make it, you know, easier to work with. Anybody else? What was your surprise, Fonda? What? You're muted. You're muted.
Yes, I'm willing to do. Yes, 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 yes. Oh my God, that's really bad. But what I did find, because one of my things that I wanted to create was I want to get a new car because my car is 12 years old, you know. But then when I'm writing out all the things, I'm like, clearly, I don't really care about a new car. My car works.
I just had almost that same exact, I'm not on this, but like just in my thought recently, I was like, yeah, I've been like, I want a new car. And I'm like, oh, but car shopping.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm like,
how badly do I want a new car? I don't drive it that often.
so that was pretty funny. I mean,
Yeah.
clearly I really don't care about, I just need to keep it clean. That's all. And make sure it's running. Let's see. So, and
Yeah.
like you said, Gail, several of mine are really in tandem with the
Well,
one.
that's what I
big
was
thing.
hoping. And that's
Yeah.
great because that's actually narrowing it down to our last, exercise we're going to do here together. At least start here together. My guess is that some of you will want to spend time in the coming week before our next one on this as well. Angela, I'm not calling your name just because I don't know if you want to participate or if you're doing something where you can't, and that's why we can't see I just want to let you know you're welcome to chime in. I know you just have your camera off right now. Anybody else be willing to share, like either if there was an aha or something that was a clear, like, oh, I can clearly let that go. I had one that I'm like, oh, I can clearly, like, if that doesn't happen, or if I don't put time and energy towards that particular project in the next 6 months, I'm going to be okay with that. I'm not going to beat myself up about that because I can't, in the name of like, I can't do it all and being honest with myself. So I don't set myself up for, disappointment and failure in that way. Right. I'm like, okay, there's something that I'm willing to let go. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think it helped me to think about getting barriers out of my way. Like ditch the old Epson 3880 printer, ditch it. Ditch the old iMac, ditch it. Ditch the new Sony mirrorless blah, blah, blah camera. Get a new Canon that I love. Just ditch it to get it out of the way so I can see what it is I would enjoy doing.
Yeah.
But this old stuff, and you think, well, I really need to make that all work. I don't want to make it all work. I want to move on.
Right. Oh, that's a huge aha too. Yeah. And permission. Anybody that needs to take a dollop of that home with you. For permission to release, whatever it is. And it could be stuff, and it could be people, and it could be things, and it could be thoughts. Often it's thoughts, right? So, or committees, like some of us have gone through points of like I'm done with this particular committee phase in my life, or board phase, or whatever it is. So yeah. And not feeling guilt about that. So, okay, this last exercise is really, it's the biggie for thinking about your vision for the next 6 months or 6 months to a year. But I kind of like to 6 months, a year. I mean, 6 months goes by quickly and a year's a long time. So I feel like the New Year's resolutions, the vision board, the kind of like societal thing, always thinks for a year, but like how often do we get to the end of the year and it's like, what even happened? So you can think about this and whatever's comfortable for you. I like to think about it in 6 months. But being able to name your creative dream or vision for the next 6 months or whatever on this spectrum of possibility, from certain to possible to audacious. So like the example that I use is a podcast. If you come to me in a podcast is in the realm of your dream, and your certain might be, I'm starting a podcast in the next 6 months. I'm starting it. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how much I do, but it's going to be on my calendar. I'm going to be working on it in the cohort. I'm starting it, and I'm putting energy and effort into it in some way. Possible might be I buy the gear. I either take a course or I hire somebody to edit it for me. I'm gonna have my name, my topic, and I'm gonna like pick 6 people that I want to interview. That's possible. And then audacious, maybe I'm going to do all of those things and I will have recorded and edited and put out into the world 3 of them. So it's all in the same umbrella of the podcast vision, but it's like, what is certain? What do I feel is like, it's possible? And what's a little more just beyond. And so for Gail and Vonda, who are like, it sounds like you're already like within the things that you were coming up with, you're already kind of having some supporting things around your vision. And so knowing that those don't have to go away, I'm not suggesting that they go away, or even other things that you want to do. But when we give ourselves permission to have an overriding, strongest #1 vision, then we can have these supporting things happen. We're setting ourselves up for success so much more than when we're like, oh, but there's 6 things and they're all equal. And I really do want to give them all equal time. So just remembering that's, if you haven't been doing it, the thing that you're bringing to the call for however long, that could be part of the issue, right? Not giving yourself that permission to prioritize and to take it from the nebulous to the more clear. Now, one thing that I want to offer is, this isn't a caveat, it's just a different way of looking at it. If whatever your personal or professional creative dream isn't clear, and if you do have a lot of possibilities, and what you really want is like over the next 6 months to get clear, then that's your project. That's your vision. That's your dream, is at the end of 6 months, you will know and feel like confident about what your creative vision is to move forward. And because that might entail taking classes, that might take experimentation, that might take, you know what I mean? So because I know I'm working with some people like that. And so other people that might watch this replay might have that, if you have that thought, but wait a minute, I don't know. I still have all these different things. Don't make me picking and picking, choosing in a way that's really well informed. And again, maybe you took some experimentation or took some classes or took some research or trips or whatever it is to decide and to get all that planned out could be possible. So I'm going to give you a little time to do that. But again, don't feel pressure to be like, at the end of 5 minutes, I have to have this figured out. I mean, if you do, you do, and it's great. But if you don't, you can spend more time this coming week, having done all the work for module 1 and all this today together in 2 to bring next week to the commitment call. So, but just to get started on it, I'm going to give us a little bit of time on the clock and flowy music.
Wait, bestie, don't press that skip button. Are you ready to earn your psychology degree? It's also 100%.
No. Okay, again, you can obviously continue to work with this at your discretion between now and next Tuesday. And I think it would be good, actually, especially for something like this, as something this important, is to spend some time with it, walk away from it, give yourself some time to think, come back to it, review your notes from the, and from 1 and 2, and see if that shifts anything. I mean, that's the other thing that spreading this out over the 3 weeks does. It kind of gives you the luxury of time and space to really think about this stuff and make those decisions and feel really good about them. Before, for those going on into the cohort, right before we start the next day, we'll be starting that, and that'll be like a really good launch pad, to already be going into that feeling really clear and having spent this time in intentional thought. So without really going into the details of your certain, possible, and audacious, I think I just want to open it up to see if anybody wants to share how that felt, even starting that process right now.
I will. The exercise has been very clarifying for me. It's like there's one major thing that I want to do, and it's like either I try to do it or I say I'm too scared to do it. But yeah, I'm gonna try to do it. So yeah, um, it wasn't too hard to know what to put in each section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to really offer, though, Gail, that knowing that that's the big stumbling block ahead of time, and like so clearly and blatantly, is good.
Yeah.
Because if it was insidious and just kind of like, I'm not doing it, it doesn't feel right, blah blah blah, and you didn't know why, like, why I'm here, I'm putting time and effort into it, I'm like saying I want to do it. Well, now we know, like, going right into it, and so we can look at it and address it and work with it head on. So much better.
Yeah, really helpful.
Good. Anybody else?
I'm pumped.
Yeah.
I'm pumped. This
Oh,
has
you're
been
pumped.
really-
Awesome.
It really has been freeing to think about, there's certain things I can do, will do,
Mhm.
and think about possible things, and by golly, even some audacity. This has been really, really helpful and clarifying.
Great. Good. I hope in both directions too, because I have to say, for me, what's really been is like enlightening is like what I'm willing to not willing to, but like, what if I don't do, I'm gonna like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, I think that I'm a little surprised by some of the stuff that I'm like, I'll be okay if that, maybe it's just not time right now, because I don't feel the same energetic pull, and my answers aren't leading me to the direction of some other things with such a bright feeling. Judy, did you have something you wanted to share?
I was just scratching, but I'll share it anyway. I feel like I have a lot of clarity. I mean, basically, my goal, I said before, not to feel bad about my work, but in a way, that's just kind of an excuse. I really need to make my headshot photography business profitable and successful.
Mm-hmm.
And I have some very concrete things that I came up with that I can do towards that end, and also towards the end of making me feel better about the work I produce. So I couldn't come up with anything audacious, but I came up with a number of certain in a number of possible things to do, but I was kind of lacking in the audacious category.
Well, maybe you can spend some time thinking about that. And I'm really glad to hear, before I jumped, I was going to let you finish your sentence and then jump in as you were talking about the concrete kind of action first going from the like, oh, I want to feel good about my work to, but what I really need to do is make money with it. Like they go hand in hand. So all the feelings about like all the doubts and all like people aren't going to like this, people don't want to hear from me, whatever it is, that is a part that will be addressed. And we will definitely address it because that will tank the other part of it. So they're very interwoven. Yes, Vonda.
Mhm.
No matter where we are in our careers, we have those same feelings that come up.
Yeah.
I felt different various bits of that 20 years ago, and I still feel those things today. What you just expressed.
Yeah. I think
it's
the
totally
difference,
normal.
yeah, it's totally normal. It's totally human. And I think the difference is, and you know, the yay us is that we have tools and support. And so, you know, that really does make a huge difference, as I think and hope all of you have seen. So, okay, I'm going to be cognizant of time since we were running over a little bit. I do want to wrap it up, but I want to thank everybody always for sharing and you know, for if you're new to the space, right? Like this is a safe space. You don't have to share if you don't want to, but know that it's just, you know, there's no judgment. Everybody's walking, you know, on this journey, on their own journey, but kind of together, your own private journey, but we're also walking it together. So, and whether you're one-on-one or you're in a cohort, we have the opportunity to come together in the Magic Action Dates on Thursdays. So that's a nice support system as well. And yeah, spend some time, give yourself the luxury and the permission of time to revisit your answers from module 1 and module 2. Think a little bit more about the certain, possible, and audacious dream. And I do want to offer this, like audacious doesn't mean like ridiculous or not ridiculous, but like just like there's no way in the world that's going to happen. Certain is like it's happening, right? I'm starting the podcast. That's all I know. That's all I know. Possible, like all those steps that you think you know, like I'm going to do those. And audacious is like feels just shy, but you could still reach it, but it's not a slam dunk. So I just want to offer that because I have had people come back with an audacious that's like, I'm gonna whatever, open a restaurant in the next 6 months, or you know, I mean, like something that's so beyond. I'm like, I don't want you to set yourself up for a failure. I just want you to dream a little bit bigger than maybe you've allowed yourself to. And maybe audacious is just like, you know what, I'm going to show up every day to my photography business feeling great about myself. If that's not the case right now, that could be really audacious and awesome. All right. Thank you all so much. And to the people on the replay, thank you too. Oh, I want to, before we go away, I do want to share this for the people on the replay too, because let me see. Technology. I'm gonna have one. I'm just gonna doing Jill's life jingles about technology. Yeah, if you are interested in joining us in the Magic Action for Multi-Passionates coaching cohort that starts on the 25th, you can use this QR code and scan it and book a call, and you and I can talk about that, or you can go on my website and there's a link as well there. I would love to talk to you about it. We have one more bonus call that everybody will have access to either through replay or live, which is commitment. So we're going to go in and start with certain possible audacious and then talk about ways to really commit ourselves to this and make it, again, as joyful and meaningful and easeful as possible over the next 6 months. So that's it. Have a great day. Thank you so much for sharing, for coming, for being honest and transparent, supporting of each other. And I will see you guys on our next call. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.